Hey everybody, it's Antoine and Daniel from Humble Husband.
Encouraging men through all seasons of life.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Antoine and Daniel back with another episode of the Humble Husband Podcast. This is season 2, episode 5, and today is a very special day. We have some awesome news to share with you, but I'm not going to give it away. I'm actually going to allow Daniel to do that, but this episode is going to be crazy. Daniel, what do we got for him today?
We are super excited for our first episode where we have a guest speaker with us. And today we have a really close friend of mine. His name is Ryan Pflipsen, who is just an awesome standout guy. And today he is going to share with us through his life, through his education, everything that he has done on how to overcome obstacles with a Christian mindset.
So, Ryan, let the people know that you're here, man. How you doing tonight?
Doing great. Thank you, guys. I appreciate the warm intro and just happy to be here and helping you guys out. Loved what you guys have stood for and have done so far with season 1 and through everything else, getting to know you guys personally.
Yeah, man, and like I said before we even started, man, I really appreciate you being here and being a guest speaker. Like, it's just an honor. You have 2 graduate degrees, right? You have 2 masters, am I correct?
That is correct. I have a master's in rehabilitation counseling, which I got back in 1997 up in Minnesota. I'm from South Dakota originally, and went across the border, had an opportunity to get that master's degree. Kind of fell in my lap. I was actually, my undergrad was in social work, and it wasn't until moving down here as part of that master's degree in rehab counseling, and a few years later, I went back for a master's in social work itself. So I have, 2 master's degrees, kind of both counseling related. Yeah,
so in both of those fields, you really deal, in the business of people. And, I don't want to steal your thunder. I don't want to give anything away, but in this topic of overcoming obstacles, you've had a very physical obstacle that you've had to overcome, and you've had to allow God to help you walk through. Can you help walk us and the listeners through what that obstacle is?
Sure. I was born with a physical disability called spina bifida. It literally means open spine, and so the way I've kind of developed describing it over the years is, if you can imagine a power cord on any sort of device like a lamp or radio, if that cord becomes frayed in any way and the wires are exposed, that device doesn't work real well. And so in my case, that device is my body and my spinal cord. And so what actually happened was, when I was born, there was a little sac of nerves that protruded outside my body in my lower back. And those are the nerves in our body that control some bowel and bladder function and lower extremity muscle development and sensation. So I have had to grow up using everything from an early age, like a walker, to crutches, and now I use a wheelchair some of the times when I have to go long distances, and I use some leg braces as well to help support my lower legs.
Thank you, Ryan, for sharing that for everyone. I know that sometimes that's just really hard to talk about, but that's just in general. You know, whenever we are going through struggles in life, I think that it's really hard for us to, one, bring those struggles out and make them available, but two, we don't always know how to rely on God to get through those. So can you give us an example where overcoming an obstacle or struggle in your life, you just had to rely on Christ to get through that moment, and what did that look like for you?
Sure. Having spina bifida, going to doctors over the years, probably like any kid, didn't like needles, did not have the affinity for them, and hated, even in adulthood, going and getting labs drawn and such. And at some point, I think it was probably the summer between my sophomore and junior year of high school, I had an extended hospitalization due to some complications. And, debriefing with the doctors at the end of that month, when I was able to go home, really kind of realized, boy, there was a point where, my kidneys had failed. I had, like they said, 3 or 4 of the worst germ, bacteria, viruses that somebody could have. And came through that with such an appreciation that I think probably for the first time in my life, I started to kind of think about occupation and more so vocation and what I wanted to do in life. And that kind of led me in college to study, at least for the first couple of years, biology. But then to not really feeling passionate about that, and just feeling more passion toward helping people in general and not having the science grades that you needed to have, gravitated more toward the counseling and social work and those things. And so today I am a clinical social worker here in the state of Texas, and I have also in the past been a certified rehabilitation counselor. So helping individuals with disabilities in particular has been a passion, and I've been able to do that off and on over the last 20, 25 years since being out of college.
Wow, that is like quite a feat. Like, not only did you get your education, but you learned to turn something that most people would feel like is an obstacle that they can't overcome. You've actually overcame it and then some. But I have a question for you. You're married. We know
Correct.
Your wife, Angela. How you doing? If you're listening, Angela. But question for you: with being married, you've learned how to overcome this obstacle yourself. But how does that affect your relationship with your wife in just everyday life?
Sure. Definitely everyday life, just in general for, I think, any couple, it comes with its challenges of, those that we know, kids, finances, various things that couples have to deal with. Myself and my wife. My wife, actually, I met her through the local Spina Bifida Association. She has spina bifida as well. So in a way we share in that and can relate to each other in sharing those struggles. But both having spina bifida, I think it does create some challenges. Neither of us drive. So we either have to depend on friends and family to help get us around, or use the Via-Trans paratransit system here in San Antonio. And so with that, the buses don't go everywhere in town, and so the paratransit doesn't go everywhere in town. So there are some opportunities that we tend to miss out on because, we can't get there. So transportation's an obstacle that we do our best to overcome, and even like other couples though too. We struggle and sometimes don't communicate as well. So I'd say there's a lot of things that bring us together, and then like everybody else, I think too, that kind of distance us at times, and we have to really work together and bring the faith back and focus on that to grow closer to together to work through things.
That's awesome. Praise God that you found Angela. She is an awesome woman. But that kind of speaks to a tone that Antoine and I have mentioned in many episodes, is that our wives are meant to be a perfect support, and in that we lead our wives. So how do you find yourselves when you and Angela are both facing a huge obstacle? What do you do in order to lead her through those obstacles?
We have had many obstacles in our marriage, almost from day one. And when we got married back in October of 2008, so we'll be coming up on our 10-year wedding anniversary here on
Woo! That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. You know, I got a call from our apartment complex the day we were coming home from our honeymoon. I believe it would have been like October 23rd, that, hey, I thought, I didn't pick it up. We were at lunch, getting ready to hop back on the Greyhound, so I let it go to voicemail, and we were at this little cafe in Fredericksburg, Texas, where we went on our honeymoon, and she stepped into the restroom, and I checked the voicemail, and she came out of the restroom, and I sat her down, and I basically, we're a 5-6-day-old couple, had to sit her down and say, hey, honey, I just got a call from the apartment. It was the apartment complex. It wasn't a doctor's appointment or anything that they were calling to remind us of. They said there's been an incident in our apartment complex, and it was a fire in our building. And, praise be to God, we weren't there. Our dog that we have was boarded, and so no injuries, but the firefighters had to basically fight the fire. That was like an electrical short, what they told us, in the stair landing right outside our door. They had to enter our apartment to kind of break open the roofs and fight the fire from below. And praise be, the God, one of the blessings, a couple of blessings that came out of the coming days, that definitely, I think, strengthened our marriage from the get-go, and just being able to comfort each other as we were being told, hey, you got to clear your stuff out of the apartment, and calling the insurance company and things like that. But we found out later that at the time I was working at University Health System in the medical center a couple blocks away, and there were many times I would roll to work, and I'd roll by the fire station, Station 32 at the time, Worspot and Babcock. So they'd see me every once in a while, or if I was going to work at the same time they were rolling out on the call, and I took my crutches on my own, and my wheelchair was sitting right inside our front door. So we found out that they did everything possible to get my wheelchair out, to help, preserve possessions and things that we had in the apartment as much as they could, until they had to, focus on saving the building. So that was kind of a blessing to hear what they had done for us. And as we were that first week trying to adjust to another apartment and relocated on property, Angela had misplaced her phone, and at the time she had a picture of me on her phone, her home screen, and it said Angela's phone. So one day we're, taking a break from all this stuff with the fire. We're walking up to Subway or somewhere to lunch, and we pass this man and woman. They look at Angela, and they look at me, and they look at Angela, and they're like, is your name Angela? And we're both like, kind of like, who wants to know? And they explained that they had found our phone, and they recognized me from being on her home screen. And so she got her phone back. That was just one of those little blessings, I think, that week. That's like one less stress that we had to then worry about. But,
that is awesome.
We just,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's funny how, like, God like in situations where it seems like all is lost, God reminds us that He takes care of us through stuff like that. Like how, they found your phone, they were able to, return it to her. Like that blesses me to hear what you said. Even all the rough parts, because in all of that, I see that God really is a way maker in the midst of like a circumstance that most people would just be like, that is terrible. And that kind of leads me to my next question. I imagine, the most that I can, because I don't know your situation, from a firsthand view, but I imagine that there's days where it's just hard, and you have to have something in place, obviously God, but something physically in place where you're just like, this helps remind me of why I'm here. This helps remind me that my disability is not, something that's lost, but I can actually use it to benefit people. What is that for you? What do you use to remind you of your purpose here on this earth every day?
Boy, one of those things that I've kind of developed over the years, notwithstanding daily prayer and kind of what I call my morning routine. It's just kind of a combination of that, where I had read a book a few years ago called The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, and he talks about taking time for silence, for affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing, journaling. And so getting just my day set up, and as a person with a disability, routines, structure, really have helped as far as get my day off and kind of almost bookend my day, doing some of that as well, to regardless of what happens in between. It's like the old saying, it's not your birth date and your death date that make a person, it's that dash in between. And I really think it's those opportunities that I've taken. One of my nicknames is Rhino, a guy that I was involved with in a business, Amway, several years ago. He was a Christian man and approached me about it from a Christian standpoint. And initially, I didn't want anything to do with that kind of business. But he showed me kind of that Christian side of it and nicknamed me Rhino, and I came to develop that as an acronym for remembering Him, capital H, God, Jesus, higher power, whatever you want to call it, in nurturing others. And I've really kind of taken that on as a mantra for my life, and it kind of fits into the social work and things that I do and that I try and do. And despite having a disability, like we're talking about, that might be this big old drag on my life, I've really tried to live it to where, hey, I'm, a beacon, a light for others, for whether they have a disability or not, that, hey, you can do this. It's tough now, but you can get through it with determination, ambition, positive attitude, faith, all of those good things, and carry on. So I try and live that as much as I can, but then, there are those times where it is really tough, and I just have to remember, take my eyes off me, put them on God, put them on others, and that's helped.
That is so awesome, and we really appreciate that. There was so much wisdom in what you said. Like, y'all can't see it, but me and Antoine are just sitting back, like, listening to this, like, taking notes on the side. That was so awesome to hear. So, a little more about your profession and your ability to help others and guide others. What has been the most kind of empowering ability that you have? I've seen you interact with people that you don't even know, and you just have this relatability to you that just stands out of the crowd. How have you used that to help others overcome obstacles?
Sure. Great question. I remember back when I first came to San Antonio in 96, 97, and I was doing my internship at the VA hospital here. And like I said, I use the paratransit system here, and I took the opportunity a couple of times to sit outside with the veterans. And just be with them. And I asked a few, hey, I'm a young professional, what's your advice for me? And they really related to me that just being with them, understanding them, and they could see that I had, the physical struggles that a lot of them had, and that they were just very appreciative of, my being able to, I think, as a strength, relate to them, knowing, not specifically, but kind of indirectly, the having the same or similar struggles that they had. And so I've always tried to, professionally, as a counselor and social worker, keep that in mind, that really it's been a humbling experience to be able to walk with folks and not always show them a way, but show them how they can find the way for themselves. And using myself as a motivator and an inspiration to say, hey, you can do it. There is a way that you can get through this. And so being able to be with them and then kind of maybe, if I've had the opportunity, teach them some strategies or skills to deal with maybe some anxiety or depression or a physical health concern.
Wow. That's really inspiring. As you were talking about that, I thought about the importance of mentorship. Had, professionally, that person not been in your path, your path may be a little different, but, thankfully that person was there, and you're getting an opportunity to do that for people every day. And man, that's just really inspiring. Last thing I think we have for you would just be, what advice would you give to men, who wear many titles? You're a husband, you're a father, you're in the professional realm, but at the same time, you're still trying to have a normal social life. What advice would you give to men who are overcoming obstacles, in their everyday life?
Sure. Whatever obstacle you're overcoming, get around a good group. We were talking mentors. I've had a couple of good mentors in my lifetime who've been either my developmental pediatrician, Dr. Blake, growing up, or Dr. Len Du, who is a medical director I worked with here in San Antonio when I was at the University Health System. And those, and certainly men of faith. Davis, who he and his wife coordinate the Covenant of Love date night that we go to at St. Matthew, involved in things like that. Find mentors, find folks that have gone where you want to go, have struggle with what you're struggling with, that they can lock arms with you. Maybe it's a group of some kind, perhaps a social group or an activity that you enjoy doing. Often, professionally, when I have folks that might be depressed, one of the biggest things for depression is get out and do something. Get out of your thoughts, get out of that negativity, and go out and find something you can do that you enjoy. Get around that larger social support.
That is awesome, and that is such good advice. Really, to any guy who is struggling, I think that it's super important to find someone like Ryan was talking about that is, one, relatable, but someone that you trust enough to talk into that situation, and above that, someone that you're going to actually listen to. Not someone who's just going to give you advice, but you kind of throw it to the wayside. But having someone in your life that can speak into those situations, and also find someone who is always going to have your best intentions in mind. I think that's super awesome that you shared that.
Yeah. You mentioned your, where do you work at again? I just want to make sure I don't mess that up.
Yeah, no. Right now, actually, talking about obstacles, obstacles and hills and valleys and stuff. Back in the last 4 years, so about October of 2013 to about September 2017, I worked for UT Health, most recently in the medical school in the Department of Psychiatry as a mental health counselor and case manager. So helping folks with their mental health needs and then some physical assistance needs. But stepped away in September to take what I thought was going to be a great opportunity to, further strengthen our marriage and kind of take some pressure off my wife, who'd also been looking for work and just not having any luck. And I took a higher paying contract job that just for circumstances didn't work out. And they let me go right before Christmas. So from Christmas till just recently, last week as a matter of fact, had been unemployed. We'd been living off of unemployment, and then in July here, I got on Social Security disability based on my vision. In addition to having a spina bifida, one of the kind of secondary conditions to that is a condition called hydrocephalus, and so I lost my vision due to some pressure buildup in my brain at about age 6. So from age 6, which is why I can't drive and use paratransit. But right now, I have the opportunity, ironically, to kind of go full circle. When I finished my internship at the VA, the opportunity that let me stay down here in San Antonio was I went to work as an outpatient case manager and social worker, both rehab specialist for Warm Springs Rehab Hospital. And they have what they call the Connectability Resource Center, which is a nonprofit that the Foundation for Warm Springs kept or developed after they sold the hospital about 10 years ago to another company. And so I was invited to interview for a case manager position and had done a great job with that. They even talked about overcoming the obstacle of me not driving, and they put me in an Uber if I needed to go do a home visit. But it came down to they gave it to somebody who is a little bit more bilingual than I am, and offered me another opportunity that they were looking at expanding in the future. But they said, hey, we got to grab you now. So I am starting this month. I just on Thursday, as a matter of fact, had the opportunity to facilitate a caregiver support group. So any kind of caregiver here in the San Antonio area, whether you're a parent of a kid with a special need, adult child of an elderly parent that's going through, needing something, anywhere in between, I will be facilitating a caregiver support group twice a month. And that is going to expand to helping facilitate some professional development for other rehab professionals like physical therapists, occupational therapists, speech therapists, doctors, nurses, social workers. It's going to be helping coordinate some presentations for those sort of folks. And then eventually getting into doing some individual counseling again. Just a wonderful blessing that's kind of come out of the challenges we've had the last 6-7 months. And I'm really excited about.
Dude, well, first I want to say congratulations on your new job. Like, praise God, that is so awesome. Like, I had no idea that you were walking through that for, almost a year of that, man. Like, you are a walking testimony of what God can do. And I just want to say, like, well done for walking through that, leading your wife through that, and not giving up. Like, that right there is an obstacle that you have overcame. And that is just so awesome. And man, I just want to thank you so much for joining us. Like, this was really cool to hear your story, to hear how you've overcome a lot of stuff. And also thank you for what you do with, the mental health field in the VA. Like, as a veteran myself and having disabilities, anxiety being one of them, I really appreciate what you do, in the secular realm, but also in the spiritual realm, man. Like, you have so much language that you can add for Christians who are going through mental health stuff. And I just want to say thank you so much for what you do.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
thank you.
You guys are welcome. Go ahead, yeah.
Thank you for sharing everything that you've shared with us this evening. And like Antoine just said, I think you've given all of, everyone who's listening a lot of verbiage on just how to keep going. And as you were going through your story and everything that you discussed, with your wife and your relationships and everything, what I noticed that stuck out is that you constantly are looking forward to the next thing. You're constantly looking forward to that next sign from God, that next step in your life, and that is just so awesome to see people doing that, because it's not something you see every day. So thank you so much for everything you've done. It has been so cool to have you here with us tonight to record for everyone listening.
Yeah, so go ahead, man. Go ahead.
I was going to say, you guys are most welcome, and, if I was to leave, guys with something just from, faith-based, from Bible perspective, that's one of the verses that I always kind of hung to since college, since a friend of mine who was in a special ed class asked if she could interview me for her class as a class assignment. Didn't ever talk faith with her at all. She was one of the cashiers at the campus convenience store. I always request whenever I get written about, hey, give me a copy. I'd love to have a copy just to kind of read it and whatnot. She put this Bible verse, this Luke 1:37, right at the top of it, and ran with the her report from there. But Luke 1:37 is, for with God nothing shall be impossible, and I definitely believe that myself, and want to instill guys to kind of grab that and run with it, as well as kind of maybe a personal verse for themselves, especially during those difficult times. But hey, God's with you. You can get through it. You will get through it.
Well, man, thank you so much for that. I think that's a perfect way to end the podcast right there. So thank you, Ryan, and thank you, everybody, for listening. We will see you next week for another episode of the Humble Husband Podcast, Season 2. It's so awesome to be doing another season. And take care, guys. We'll see you next time. Peace.